My name is Emily Macedo and I'm a macrame artist. We are going to be making a plant hanger today. For today's supplies, you are going to need some cotton cord. Today I'm using 4mm twisted strand. Next thing you'll need is a pair of sharp scissors. And finally, you'll need a wooden craft ring. You can pick these up at any craft store or even some metal rings at the hardware store. So the first thing we're going to do is cut and measure our 8-foot strings and then find the halfway mark for them and loop them through your ring. So the first thing we're going to be doing is the gathering knot. And for this, you're gonna need a 1.5-foot piece of cord, cut and measured. And then we're just going to lay it on top of the other cords like this, with a little piece sticking up top. And we're gonna loop it so it comes back up. And I just hold this with my thumb while I'm doing this. And with your long piece that's sticking out here, you're gonna wrap it around the back and just kind of start wrapping them together. And you wanna tighten that and make sure all the cords are nice and tight together. We're basically just making a bundle. So I'm gonna wrap that about 4 or 5 times until your cord starts to get shorter. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to put it through that loop that we created at the beginning. So I'm going to stick that extra cord through, so it's just looped through like this. And then I'm gonna take the piece we left up here and pull it to make the loop shorter. And that's going to pull that end through. And we now just want to make sure that it's kind of tucked in behind all of those extra cords. So it should look like this. And then we're just going to cut those extra strings off. So I'm going to cut it short so that we don't see them anymore. And there we go. There's our gathering knot. So the next knot we're going to be doing is called the square knot. And you're gonna need to take 4 strands, so pick 4 that are kind of close together. And you're gonna take the 2 outer strands separately from the inside ones. And the first thing we're gonna do is take the right cord and we're just gonna loop it over and make like a backwards 4 or a sailboat there. And I'm just gonna hold it in place with my thumb. And then you're gonna take the left cord and you're gonna go over top of that cord that came over and then loop it behind those 2 middle cords and come through that original loop that we made. So it should look like that. And then I'm just gonna pull it up and tighten it in place. And then to finish off the knot, we have to do the same thing but in reverse. So I'm gonna take the left cord this time and I'm gonna make a number 4. And then I'm going to take my right cord and again go over top of that cord that came across and then loop it behind those 2 middle cords. And then I'm going to come through that loop we made and I'm going to pull it up and tighten it. And just pull on both strings there and slide it up. And that is 1 square knot. So for this pattern, I'm going to do about 10 square knots, and that should bring it down a little bit. So the next thing we're going to be doing is a spiral knot, but before this we're going to switch our cords. So you'll notice at the bottom that some of the cords are shorter and these were the ones we were using on the outside. So we're just gonna switch them so they kind of even out again. And to do this, you're just gonna bring those outer cords into the middle and now we'll be working with those inner cords now on the outside. So for the spiral knot, we're going to be doing the same thing as the square knot. So we're going to take our right cord and make a backwards 4 over top of those 2 middle cords. Then we're going to take our left cord and put it in front of that cord coming across and loop it back through. And when I pull it up, I'm just gonna leave a little bit of a space, so maybe 2 fingers wide, just to kind of give that little effect. And if you did have a bead at home, then you could add that here if you'd like as well to kind of cover that section. And to finish the spiral knot, instead of reversing it for the square knot, we're just going to keep going, doing the same direction. So always starting with the right cord going over and the left cord coming back behind. And that will start to make it turn. So for the next part, we are just going to repeat the same thing that we did up top here with the square knots. And I'm just going to be doing 10 square knots again. And I'm going to do that same trick where I switch out the cords. So I'm going to put the 2 outer cords on the inside and be working with those 2 inner cords on the outside now. And I'm just going to keep making some square knots. So for this last section, we're going to be starting to construct the part that holds the pot. So we're going to need to take 2 of our original strands and then take 2 strings from each of them. And we're going to be just starting to connect them. So I have taken the 2 left strings on this side and the 2 right strings, and we're just going to use a square knot to connect that. And I'm going to go about 2 inches down. And I'm gonna make my square knot again here. And just kind of tighten it in place. And make sure everything is straight and pulled down. And so now they're attached. And we're just gonna do that all the way around, making sure they're all attached, taking 2 cords from each. So for the next section, we're going to be doing the same thing where we are tying knots to attach them again, but I'm actually going to take the pot that I'm using to kind of measure where it should be and where I want those knots to be, because if you have a different shaped pot, it might need to go in a little bit different spot, or if you have a smaller pot, the knots are going to need to be closer together. So I'm using, I believe this is a 6-inch clay pot here, so I'm just going to put it in its place, and then I'm going to decide where I want the next knot to be. So I'm going to shimmy it down a little bit, and that's approximately where I want my next knot to be. So mine's going to be about 2 inches down again. And then I'll just take that out and build those knots again by taking 2 from each side. And I decided I want mine approximately 2 inches down. And we're just gonna do a square knot again. So now I'm gonna put my pot back in just to kind of measure where I want my last knot to go. And for this knot, we're gonna be doing the gathering knot that we did up at the top, just to kind of gather these all at the bottom of the pot. So I'm gonna measure out where I want my gathering knot to be and just kind of hold it in place. And then I'll slide the pot out and still holding that in place here. And then I'm gonna take my 1.5 foot cord again, just like that. And I'll do my gathering knot again. So laying it down, leaving a little piece up top here and draping it, and then leaving a loop down below, and I'm holding that with my thumb. And I'm just gonna start wrapping that longer piece around about 4 or 5 times. And with that extra end, I'm going to stick it through the original loop that we made, just like that. And I'm gonna use that top piece to pull the loop shorter. and bring that cord underneath these cords. So I'm gonna lift it up here. And I wanna be careful not to pull it all the way through. So I just kind of want it tucked under those other ones. And then I'm gonna cut these two pieces shorter so that we have a gathering knot again. And the last thing we're going to do is just trim the ends. So you can either make them all different lengths for kind of a funkier look, but I'm just gonna cut mine kind of straight across where I choose. And you can cut it as short as you like. And there we go. And then you can either untangle these for a little bit more of a fringe look, or you can leave them just as they are. So I might untangle mine a little bit just to kind of give it some more texture. So some different variations that you can do to kind of make this your own and to make it a little bit more unique. You can change out the spots where you put the different knots. So here I've done some spiral at the top and some square, then back to some spiral knots. Another thing you can do is make those gaps bigger if you want it longer. So here we did small gaps. Here I've done some really big ones to make it longer. And you can interchange these knots as much as you want and leave different gaps to kind of make it either different lengths or different styles. With this course, you'll also be receiving a PDF document with all of the different knots, so you can try to go and use those for your own projects now as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I had an awesome time.